Hi, this is Trepacer. This is going to be my review of Season 3, Episode 10 of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This is the winter finale. S.H.I.E.L.D. is not coming back until March. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agent Carter is coming back, which is in January, which is a good thing. I love Agent Carter. Anyway, this Episode 10, it basically begins with where it left off the last episode, with Fitz and Ward and various red shirts on the distant planet, looking for that creature that Hydra wants to bring back. And of course, they're looking, and Fitz, of course, tries to escape. And of course, Ward smacks him around a little bit, and they keep going on their way. Okay, now back on Earth, Matt comes up with a plan. He says, "Listen, we have to find a way to get into to get in undetected." And they come up with a plan. They decide to go in through the water duct, ancient, water, where the water flows through, and they're gonna basically divide the teams up. It's gonna be Bobby, Hunter, and Mac. They go one way, and May, Daisy, and Lincoln, and the new guy, who can bend metal, they'll go another way. And basically, what they do, they infiltrate, and meanwhile, Simmons is loosening her bonds as they're waiting, and then they decide to, to take out the lights. They take out the lights, and of course, Simmons manages to cut her way free, and she is, sneaking around the base while Hydra is looking all around to try to turn on the generator back on. And then we see Coulson wakes up. He was knocked out in the last episode. He wakes up and dumps his bag and takes his gun, and he's on the trail of Ward and Fitz and the various red shirts. Okay, and back on the mainland, while Simmons is sneaking around, they find out that Hydra has actually brought in 11 of the Inhumans, and they basically what's called it? I forgot his character's name. The guy who sent Ward over says basically, they brought the 11 Inhumans from over there, so they can be basically the army of this creature. They'll be the army for this creature. Malik, that's his name, Malik. He brought these 11 Hydra, containers with these various Inhumans. That'll be the creature once they bring it over. That'll be his army. To give them ultimate power or whatever. Anyway, Simmons, he runs into Andrew's container over there. Andrew basically, they have a back and forth about, she says he's autopsied the victims of his, Inhumans that he's killed before. And she said, listen, we both have he basically convinces her, listen, we both have a common enemy, Hydra. So, let me out and I'll protect you. And she lets him out, and he tells her to back up and behind the tank. And of course, Hydra agents come and see that his tank is open and tell him to back up. He backs up, but you see he's turning into Lash. Okay, and he basically slaughters them and slaughters all the other Inhumans as well. Okay, in the meantime, on the distant planet, Ward and Fitz and the various red shirts, they discover Andrew. They discover him in the underground layer where he was before with Simmons, and they basically find him, and he said he can lead them to the port. He can lead them to the portal to the escape spot where they have to be. When the portal opens up again, and basically him and Fitz make small talk about Gemma and stuff, and how Gemma told him about him and all that stuff, and various. And then Will basically tells him, listen to me, follow my lead, and basically they come up with a plan they march towards this big, I guess, narrow way that they have to get through, and it gets real windy, and basically they do is, they get separated from Ward and the other red shirts, and they basically take out the other two red shirts that are around them, and they scramble their way on, running towards the towards where the portal is going to be. In the meantime, Coulson has caught up to them, and he's killed the other red shirts that are around Will, and shoots Will and not Will, shoots Ward, but keeps him alive and said, listen, since Fitz and Will are ahead of him, he said, listen, we got to catch up to them, and he basically ties Ward up and marches him on to follow behind him to get to the portal. Okay, now meantime, back on regular Earth, our various agents have knocked down a few Hydra agents, and they rendezvoused and barricaded themselves in where the portal is. And Matt comes up with a plan. He said, listen, Hydra's going to burst into here in a few minutes. So I need everybody to leave, okay? Okay, and I'll stay here to open up the portal, when, for Coulson. And of course there's a debate about whether, whether that creature's coming back and what are we going to do to take care of it, we can't let it come back. And of course there's a back and forth. But then Max said, listen, Coulson made me in charge to make the hard decision. And he said, well, I'm going to make the hard decision. Everybody goes back, and May, you're the acting director if I don't come back with Coulson. Anyway, and he basically, then of course Daisy says, wait a minute, I'm going to stay since, I'm your partner anyway, and I can keep the portal open as well. With my powers, I can keep the portal open. So she decides to, Max, okay, she'll stay and everybody else goes. Okay, and in the meantime, back on the distant Earth, Fitz and Will are making their way to the portal when they see this open civilization, and basically Will goes on about how this is a beautiful place and how they couldn't see, a vision of the future and all that stuff. And then that's when Fitz noticed that he's not really human. He sees this wound that he was tending to before, and he's not human. And then that's when Will says, basically, I killed, he's the creature, which I always thought to my head anyway that Will was going to be the creature. And he was taken over by the creature. And they have a little back and forth fight, fisticuffs back there. And, what Fitz manages to shoot him. Okay, but in the meantime, Ward and Coulson are marching towards them, and they see that. And then that's when Ward just tries to, take advantage of Coulson being distracted, and they get into their own little skirmish. And then ultimately, Fitz minds up shooting the fake Will with a flare gun, which basically burns him alive. And then Coulson manages to overpower Ward and takes his robot hand and basically crushes his chest and kills him. And then they make their way through the portal. And of course, then you see back at the ship, they're counting down, and May releases the rockets. But of course, right on time, you see the little containment field lift up, raise up, and it's all of them have survived. Okay, they all made it back. Hugs all around and stuff. And of course, Simmons is happy to see Fitz, but also sad that Will is not with him. So, of course, and I guess he'll explain that to her later. Of course, and then Malik, of course, you see Malik spiriting away. Okay, and as you see him spiriting away, all of a sudden, they say you'll be in the airport in 30 minutes. There's somebody on the road, and he stops the car, and then you see it's Ward, but it's not really Ward, because remember, Ward got killed on the distant planet, but it's Ward with the creature inside him. So that creature did manage to get to the other side, and he's holding Coulson's robot arm. So Ward isn't technically dead. This is not technically Ward. This is the creature that Hydra wanted. So that's why I guess the way to keep Ward on the show, or keep the actor Brett Dalton, I think that's his name, to keep him on the show. But this is a different version of Ward. Not the real Ward, but he's the Hydra creature that they've been waiting for. And then of course you have to also consider that Lash is still out on the loose, because after Simmons let him loose and he killed a bunch of Hydra agents and killed the Inhumans there, he went on his way. Okay, so he's still out there. So that's interesting to see where they're going to go in the second part of the season. Now that Ward is there, and now he's that creature. So I don't know if he's going to be although like I said, they managed to kill him. Maybe he's going to have new powers, because Fitz shooting him didn't kill him. He had to fire the flare gun at him and set him on fire, but that still didn't kill him technically. He just slithered out of Will, the fake, the real Will's body, the form he'd taken, and then I guess he hijacked, Ward's dead body that was there and took it over. So interesting to see what powers he has and see what happens in the second half of the season. So anyway, that's it for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You gotta wait till March 8th, I believe, for the next episode 11. So anyway, let me know what you think of Season 3, Episode 10, my review of it. Feel free to leave comments down below. And if you like this review, please hit the subscribe button down below. And this is Trepacer saying so long and take care.